You're listening to Raising Anchor on 990 WBOB. Welcome to the Raising Anchor Soccer Show with Matt Entrigan and Jason Carey. Your home for news, analysis, and everything Rhode Island FC. Each week, they take you inside the locker room, inside the tactics, and inside the storyline shaping RIFC. Now, here's Matt and Jason.
Rhode Island FC get a flat tire on the road against the Portland Hearts of Pine, falling 2-1 to early goals that had RIFC chasing the entire match, and despite the pedal to the metal, they still came up short in Prinx Tires Cup action. We're going to talk about the result and see if RIFC have already crashed out of this tournament, as well as talk about the rumblings that took place on the pitch and some of the rumblings that took place off the pitch after the match. But first, we got to check in with my, were you my co-friend on the bus? I mean, we were both shotgun at the front of the bus on the trip there. Mr. Jason Carey, how are you doing, my friend?
Doing good. Pretty tired. You know, think about in the last couple of days, we've seen two movies. We went up to Portland for a soccer game, and then we also went to Boston yesterday for a concert. We've been pretty busy. I realized today, I was like, I'm exhausted. We never just sat down and rested this weekend.
No, there's many chores that I have put off for farther than I care to admit. It was a very busy weekend. Some people probably not the weekend they want. I mean, the chat's already kind of raging here early, complaints in it before we even started the show. I feel like this is going to be kind of a pressure test on how the rest of the season goes for our particular programming tonight. Want to talk about the initial impressions before we get into the match here. Overall, result notwithstanding, how did you feel about the time up in Portland?
I mean, result notwithstanding, honestly, I had a great time. It was. I think it was a really fun bus ride. Maybe the way home was a little more somber, but it still found a few people to chat with and kind of catch up with. But yeah, I had fun opening panini packs on the bus. We did some kind of fun stuff there, and like honestly, the weather was beautiful too, despite the game. So it was just kind of like good to get out there on a Saturday and not be like cold and windy and rainy.
No, it was a perfect game day weather vibe. And yes, the paninis, by the way, we should create like a hashtag for it, like hashtag give us your paninis. If you have any extras that you have already gotten, if you're a collector as well, please let's coordinate. We are happy to pass around the ones that we've already gotten as duplicates. So let's start something there. But to your point at Fitzpatrick, I thought it was a fun environment. I mean, we've seen from the matches that we've been watching, we've seen the Hearts of Pine grow that place organically. You know, they're not trying to fill a 10,000, 20,000 person stadium off the go. It felt good. The vibe was right. The atmosphere, the food, everything was going good in that space. But, you know, at the same time, it was still a track field. So you could still see, like, there was still that dimension where there was a little bit of separation from where the fans could get to the club and where the club just felt farther off, especially on those ends. Like, that's a hard place where you can't watch the game from, you know, the north and south sides of the pitch. Overall, I mean, I still had a good time. I would have had a better time if we'd gotten a win there.
Oh, absolutely. It you know, like you said, it was a great time out there. Weather with fans, we had a pretty large contingent of people travel down. It's just ultimately the result really didn't go our way.
Yeah, I think it's the largest contingent that we've had from a fan group outside of maybe the USL Cup final. And I don't know if that's entirely, if it was more than definitely the last Hartford trip. So that was exciting to see. But let's talk about the standings. Let's talk about the result and the impact that this match had on the night when we look at where we now sit in Prinx Cup action.
Yeah, so RIFC now find themselves at the bottom of Prinx Cup table in Group 5. However, due to other results, the point spread is incredibly tight. So when we look at the bottom here, RIFC 2, well, the top, Portland Hearts of Pine and Hartford only have 4 points. So that's only 2 points separating the entire group.
Yeah, we'll talk about it a little later in the final segment on whether or not we can find ourselves back into this competition. Some conversations from fans that went to the game. Apparently, they didn't like the glare from the metal tables. I do remember that we were obviously circling around. I know there were some confrontation opportunities amongst the security and the way groups, you know, that always kind of happens as a clash. But speaking of the clashes here and looking at this, do we think that Rhode Island thought that they would be in this position as far as table standings go?
I don't think they thought they would be here, considering how well we've done in this competition. I know it's a short history, but I kind of don't think they thought that this is where they'd be. I think that maybe they thought they'd be in closer striking distance to kind of either be in that first spot or kind of maybe even try and like find themselves in a wild card, if you will.
Agreed. Well, we got to start from the beginning here and understand how Kano prepared for this game. I don't think when we talked what we thought the reality was, we talked about the possibility. You were absolutely right. You said it's probably going to be a combination of both of those on match day, but I don't think anyone really could have predicted the lineup that we saw here on game day.
Yeah, we've got Koke Vegas here in net. We've got Nick Scardina, Grant Stoneman, Amity Jope there in the back with Aldair Sanchez, kind of auxiliary left back, but always kind of pushing up there with the team as well. Similarly, Nick Scardina will at times too. Zach Harivo, Amos Shapiro Thompson there as your kind of holding midfielders, if you will, with Quizera, Augustine, and Noah Fuson there, with JJ Williams there up top.
First question we got to ask, did Kano get this right? And I don't mean, again, the score line. There were players that could have been selected. There were players that didn't even travel for this match. We talked at length with Sean Fecto about would these coaches take this game serious. We thought that would necessarily come down to how these rosters were selected on game day. Did Kano get this right in the selection? Just from this build, let's take away the result for a second. Is this a team that should be starting as the starting 11 for Rhode Island on any given day, regardless of the competition?
I would say if this was anything other than a Prinx Cup game, I don't think this is our strongest lineup. But in regards to playing against a USL 1 team who hasn't had a particularly strong season, I don't particularly look at this and think like it's a bad lineup. Obviously, you say we're trying to take away the result from judging this. But if you showed this to me ahead of time, I'd say, okay, like this is a pretty competitive lineup, but that he absolutely could have rotated more.
So then you would say that this is still a strong enough lineup that it's good enough to get out there and be played, but we could have gone stronger.
Absolutely. We could have gone with a full 100% like strength lineup. Obviously notable missing here. There's no Clay Holstad and no Ugo Bacharach. And then there's also no Karifa Yao, another kind of stalwart to our team. So, definitely some changes that could have happened. I mean, even Frank Nodarce, I don't know if people notice, if you look back, there's pictures of the fan group. You could see Frank Nodarce standing on the top of the stands with a hood on, watching the game behind us. So, I mean, he didn't even make the bench. So,
but the question then comes to and I think when we saw this drop an hour before match time, we immediately got attracted to the idea Pity Rodriguez is getting a start. JJ Williams is getting a start. We figured Jose Quizera was probably the most likely on that right side. So we asked ourselves, and I remember we said, there's enough offense here to create a problem for the back line and for the keeper on the day for the Hearts of Pine. Is it then that we didn't play our best central defensive action? Because I look at it and Nick Scardina, he gets the assist in the last match, put in a performance, but Grant Stoneman has been a rotating starter or substitute defender, and that's been an ongoing trend over the last season and a half now. I don't know that there's been many times where he's played alongside just Amity Jope, and I don't want to go straight to it because that's where the goals came from, but it seemed like there was a little bit of a disconnect there when you didn't have Karifa there, you didn't have Frank Nodarce. I don't know if Grant Stoneman and Amity, obviously they practice every day, but that was probably the weakest part we talked about on the pitch, and then that's where we saw the most problems on the night.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right there. There's a partnership that needs to be kind of made between center backs, and if you basically put the two guys who are who haven't started together very often, then obviously you're gonna maybe have some growing pains there, and it kind of cost us on the night.
I think that is probably something that Kano would want to take back, knowing it from a hindsight perspective. But then I still ask myself, why didn't Karifa Yao play in this game? Why didn't Frank Nodarce? Because if we're going to get punched around like we did against a USL 1 side, you have to start asking questions of this, because Jason, it segues to my next question about this lineup. We've got to talk about it. Koke Vegas in net yet again. We said of all the players that might be the most questionable on the pitch for the night, it was going to be who was in net, because we said it's a USL one side. You go with your captain in a game that is a lesser opponent by division standards. You choose to rotate your back line. You choose to rotate your holding midfield pairing. I don't think Zach and Amos have actually started a game together. Usually Clay and Zach, Hugo and Zach, Amos and Hugo. I don't know that we've even seen that center pairing as well. So you talk about the familiarity. It's kind of like you wedged a entire new dynamic in front of your captain. And maybe that's why you keep your captain net as a safety, check in case there's something that does go wrong, but it doesn't work on the night. There's no keeper that's gotten action now for Rhode Island FC at an amateur level, a USL 1 level. What's going on? Do we expect to see Will Meyer or Jacob Castro on the season at this point?
It's hard to say at this point, because this was one of the games you would have expected to happen. We still have 2 more Jaeger or Prinx Cup tire games, I should say.
Do a punishment for every time we say the old name.
But so, there's still an opportunity for them to play. There's maybe some other scenarios where it might happen, but it is surprising. It makes you wonder, did the having Koke behind them, did that give them a bit of extra confidence, knowing that they think, if someone gets past us, they're not going to score on a championship keeper, would you? So it's hard to say what's going through their heads there.
All right. Well, who were your heroes and zeros before we go to break?
All right. Heroes, I'm going to have to go with Dorsey for getting the goal, keeping the game alive there at the end. Zero is going to have to be our kind of first half start to the game. We really shot ourselves there in the foot, especially under 30 minutes going down 2 goals. That's really not something RIFC can kind of, afford to chase. You would think after giving up that first goal would kind of be a wake up, but it felt like we needed to get 2 before they ever kind of really kind of got their butts in gear, if you will.
Yeah, I've got for myself, it's Defiant 1636 and the entirety of the traveling support making a big effort to come out and support the guys. I also want to give a special shout out to Dan Chase, who's been shooting for us for the show. So he did some incredible, he took some incredible shots on that. So thanks to him. My zero actually is, he should also be the hero in a sense, but the zero is the guy who cut us off on the bus ride home that sent Matt Jean and myself flying across the entire aisleway of the bus as we were standing up talking to people. Matt Jean, I hope you're still okay from that. I mean, our bus driver was awesome, but whoever it was that cut off that bus, wow, that was problematic.
How dare they?
Producer Torrin wrote some in here, and if he thinks I'm going to say these things that he wrote in these notes, we're going to have a conversation. I will agree, Jope and Sanchez, out of character performances. I think more so Jope, and we'll talk about that in the next segment. And then the hero, I do like this one, Koke, Amos, and Clay for facing the fans after the match. Going to be a very large talking point as we get a little later in the show. But don't go anywhere. We got to get to our first break. And when we get back, we're going to break down the first and second half, as well as get a message from your captain, Koke Vegas. Thank you for listening to tonight's broadcast, powered by Sprout Coworking. For all your business needs, large or small, visit sproutcoworking.com. Powering 990 WBOB, that's sproutcoworking.com.
Now, let's get back to the Raising Anchor Soccer Show on 990 WBOB with Matt Entrican and Jason Carey.
Matt Jean reporting in live from the show that he has bruises on top of bruises. That was quite the spill, my friend. But we got to get into this action here, talking about the first half. Jason, this was something we reported on just a week or two ago. The fastest goal ever conceded in club history at that time against Birmingham Legion, coming in just under 4 minutes. Well, I guess Kid decided to say, hold my hearts of pine, Bizzle Brothers, because he now gets the honor of being able to say that the fastest conceded goal against Rhode Island FC in their entire competitive performance as a professional club comes against a USL one side now, as Kid bags his goal in just the 3rd minute of play. I think it shocked everyone in Rhode Island, both the players, the coaching staff, as well as the Defiant 1636. They rallied probably faster than the club did, if I'm being honest. But it is another early conceded goal. You see Kidd run in quietly after a redirect. They reset the play. Ollie Wright floats one across. And for some reason, Amity Diop is drifting to cover Grant Stoneman after he loses kind of some of his territorial man marking. He's wide open in the backside. Sanchez sees him. He sees him too late. It wasn't his person to come in and tuck to cover. This feels like it's a trend now. We feel like we've been like 2 goals, the fastest we've ever seen in club history, coming in as little as 3 weeks. Whether this is a massive mistake from Diop and the rest of the back line, this has to be something that they fix. We can't see this going continuously game after game. I know Diop's not having fun rewatching that tape today, or if it's tomorrow. I'm not sure which day they go back for that, but this is turning into becoming a very big problem very quickly.
Yeah, it is becoming concerning that a team, historically in our short history, known for being very solid defensively, is starting to show some more cracks in the armor. But also, a lot of feels like it's coming from mistakes that makes you kind of wonder, like, what mentally is going on with the guys. Are they not ready right off the bat? Do they need a few minutes to warm up before they kind of like get their head in the game? Because we're making some sloppy mistakes, right? Our offense has been better this year, but not enough to kind of overshadow that. It's not like, Louisville 2 years ago where they're just like, it's fine, we'll just score more than you. Who cares if we let in a goal or two?
I mean, I don't disagree with you. I don't know what it was. You can't say that they were a cold start. It was probably the warmest game they've played of their season so far, including some matches down in Florida where we've seen
maybe their brains are fried.
Some losses. But getting back into it, especially on this back line, another dangerous look for the Hearts of Pine in the 21st minute. Stoneman again kind of drifting outside, ball watching, as there's a dangerous look in from Titus Washington. Diop again pulled in the wrong direction, not realizing he's in the wrong position for it. If Titus Washington tucks that a little bit more near post, that's a second goal in less than 20 minutes. Again, looking slow, looking a little pedantic, looking like traffic cones almost at times. Makes me ask the question. I know he's the oldest guy on the squad, and I don't want to put any disrespect to this, but do you feel like Stoneman was just getting athletically outpaced by a younger attacking line in the Hearts of Pine? Because there were moments where like he literally was a stone man, and I hate to do that to him because I really enjoy watching him play. He has a very intelligent soccer IQ most matches that he plays, but it was either something with the way we played that line at a little bit higher line, and we were losing second balls and getting caught in transition, or he was getting torched, and it was the wrong setup man to man to begin with on the day.
Yeah, I think when it comes to Grant Stoneman, we look at his career with us so far. He's done better when he's part of a back three. I know you can kind of look at our system, and sometimes we still start in a back four that evolves into a back three. But 2 of those players in Sanchez and Scardina, they're fullbacks. They're not center backs. So I think without that additional man to support there, I think maybe it's kind of exposing some of his weakness. Like you said, I think a lot of his strengths come from his soccer IQ. He's very calm on the ball. He's a good passer, and he kind of doesn't fall under pressure. But the problem is if you turn this into an athletic, track meet, he's going to get burned because, he's there kind of on the wrong side of the age end of this game.
Tactically speaking, on the night, I noticed that it felt like Nick Scardina's job was to stop Ollie Wright. And on the other side of the pitch with Kamara from the Hearts of Pine, he was keeping Rhode Island stretched on the far left side. So even in that back three, we constantly saw Aldair way further out wide to make sure that there wasn't anything coming from that side. And so if the midfield lost a runner looking in, and we've seen the Hearts of Pine crash the box pretty well when they see an opportunity, I think that's the other piece, is that this really wasn't a true back three that we've seen, where that, this was more of a back four line, if you think about it, because not only did we not have another center back on the pitch, but we weren't in that position to absorb and kind of rotate through when the attack came down either lane. It caught us multiple times, and then we see us get caught again. And I know listeners are going to say that wasn't a PK, but we see, and we actually talked to all of our ref friends too. So Joe Burns, we've got, of course, Seth the ref. We've got a few people who like to write into the show. but we see in that run up, we see Zach Haribo trying to close the gap because, again, Jope and Stoneman pulled out of the equation, trying to run in. Jope is, again, kind of the catalyst that starts this counterattack. Zach Haribo tries to come in, but he's behind on it. He tries to make the slide tackle. He makes connection, whether it's slide or not, there's connection there. And when you're behind a player diving through him and the ref's behind you and sees contact, that's usually a PK call 99 out of 100 times.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but I think there's not enough there to kind of like overturn it, if you will. Not that we have a VAR, but it's one of those like not clear and obvious kind of mistakes that, when you're making contact, especially in the box, you need to make sure that you're winning the 100% of the ball and as little as possible with the man is. So sees us go down 2-0 in less than 30 minutes. Not a great start to the game.
And we've talked about that this team is not a group that chases games that well. They can grow back into them, but they're not a team that wants to be behind. They always want to be up front. Want to get into the second half here, talking about the adjustments that Kano now has to make, 2 goals down going into it. We see 3 subs at halftime, and I don't know, and I wish I could have found this out in time, but I just don't have the ability to get those level of stats anymore. I don't know if we've seen a triple rotation at halftime before in a competitive match. Maybe at a friendly game, maybe at a preseason game. I just don't know we've done it when there are stakes on the line. But we see Yao in for Sanchez, Bacharach in for Haribo after giving up the PK, and Dorsey in for Fuson. What do you think was Kano's adjustment plan in making these rotations there?
I think the fact that he went with a triple sub, which, like off the top of my head, I don't think we've done it. That's not to say that, some will come up with a random stat of someone to the time it actually happened. But, it's such a rare thing that it is very much a statement to the team too, that, coach was not happy with the performance there. And maybe to a certain extent, maybe he thought that, maybe he got it wrong there and is making those adjustments to go for it in second half. I mean, it's kind of surprising not to see Yao in the starting 11, right? This has been a few games now where it's kind of like he's been that rock that we had in the back. I remember when we first started 2024 in Bern, a lot of people were even myself, a little skeptical about him. I think it took him a little longer to adjust to the game. And then since then, he's been light out. I wonder if there's something more there, like he's not injured, but like a lingering knock to keep him from being full fitness. Swapping out in the entire left side was also kind of an interesting choice there too.
Right. Yeah. We knew that Ollie Wright needed to be marked, so I understood that. But you took out the entire left side there. That's also a decision.
Yeah, more so than I think it's saying that Fuson or Sanchez actually did anything wrong, and especially the fact that Quezera can be interchangeable on what side he can play. So,
then I want to ask the big one, because I thought this was interesting. We had a question in the mailbag about, could Leo end up being a lone striker in his own system at some point for this club as an experiment? It's not Leo that comes in. Instead, Logan Dorsey coming in the 45th minute. Is that revealing about his intentions of the style of play? I know that Logan is not like Leo. I know there are 2 different types of players and 2 types of profiles. Obviously, you could say it worked because Logan does get a consolation goal out of it. But if you're looking at this as a casual or an outsider and going, your loan product getting summoned up before the guy that you brought in to basically replace a Golden Boot-esque player, what does that tell you on how Kano wanted to go into that second half?
Yeah, I think it was more matchup focused to me. And I think also if we want to talk a little bit more about the player profile, I don't think that Leo is a out and out striker. He's right. More of a left or right forward, if you will, kind of like what you look at someone I don't want to make the comparison because we're not obviously comparing talent, but what we used to saw of players like Bale or Ronaldo when they played for Madrid. Were they wingers? Sure. But they would come in and just pretend they're strikers and go for goal. It's that kind of, you come out from wide, come inside, but you're not going to stay more central than someone like Logan or JJ would.
Sure. But, I'm sure Leo Afonso and his parents would appreciate the comparison to Gareth Bale, but he did also bring Busy in later in the game, which I would say is a much similar profile to Leo Afonso. Then why? I'm fine with that.
I see Busy more as like a winger. I just don't feel like he's got enough of an eye for goal.
That's my point, right? Like
Yeah.
you leave a weapon like Leo Afonso on the bench when you are down a goal, you need a goal, and he is one of our best attackers. Is there something to be said that Leo didn't get into this game? Because we're not stable. We don't have a midweek fixture. You know, we've got Brooklyn next weekend or this upcoming weekend. It's very interesting to me because if we saw Leo and Busy on the pitch, I'm like, okay, that's like you said, that's your forward as well as more of a midfield winger, a true winger. You choose Logan for the physicality, I'm assuming, and there's definitely a match. JJ was getting, like, their entire intention was blocking JJ out of the game as much as possible on this. He wasn't quiet on the night, but every time he went up, he had two defenders just trying to drag him back down. So I got it, and we saw it work when Hugo, Logan, and JJ all started crashing the box in some of the set pieces in the corners. That's how we got one of our kicks. And some of the other ones where we were shooting at target, we were dangerous because of that. But then it's Busy coming on and no Leo. I don't know. I would feel like if you need a goal, you're gonna go to Leo, despite the fact that Busy has had a substitute goal in the first 5 minutes of every time he subbed.
Maybe that's just what
he was going for Jamaican luck. I don't know.
Banking on that.
All right. Well, then, final question on the half. Logan does get the goal in the 61st minute. It's his second goal across all club competitions. The assist coming from Amos Shapiro-Thompson on the cross. It's Amos Shapiro-Thompson's first career assist with Rhode Island. I did not know that. I almost went back to check because I was like, how could that have been a thing? Thoughts on the overall goal? I know it's consolation. Was it well earned? It felt like a goal was coming at some point in this game, and it just spills over in the 62nd minute.
It was well earned. I think we did enough to get a goal back. I'm not going to argue that we did enough to win the game. You would look at our stats, some of them, and think, wow, we really dominated. Like, I'm surprised we kind of didn't get a second one there. But the fact that we let ourselves get into that position kind of makes it hard to argue, that we should have got more, maybe a draw. But he took it well. I'm glad that, he got the goal, even if it is quote unquote against a lesser opponent. You want your strikers getting goals to continue that confidence. We want to see goals from this team. We just really need to figure out what's going on there on the other side of the pitch.
Absolutely. Well, we got to go to break, and when we come back, we're going to have El Capitan's words on the match performance and break down the biggest storylines coming out of Prinx Cup action on the weekend. Don't go anywhere. It's the Raising Anchor Soccer Show. Fans, as the weather becomes more and more unpredictable, be sure to check out 990 WBOB's weather page for all your temperature, storm, and travel info. Stay prepared for whatever Mother Nature has in store with the 990 WBOB weather page.
Now, let's get back to the Raising Anchor Soccer Show on 990 WBOB with Matt Entrican and Jason Carey.
All right, back here on the Raising Anchor Soccer Show, going to start things off right into this with Koke Vegas's words. We pulled him aside after a long conversation after the match with Defiant 1636 supporter groups and fans. But here's what Koke had to say on the game.
Yeah, I think we are all frustrated. We all are sad. It's not the end of the game that we wanted for sure. We wanted to take the 3 points. We want to stay in a better position now in the cup. But the reality is, like, we didn't do a good first half. We pay a lot, too expensive probably for the first half, because as I was telling the fans now, like, if we gotta lose the game, I wanna lose it as we did in the second half. Showing a great performance, showing a great energy, being positive, trying to go for the game, pushing them for 45 minutes in their box, forcing their goalkeeper to make so many good saves. So at the end of the day, we cannot say that we're going to win, but we can say that we are going to do everything that we can do for win. So, of course, we need to show accountability. We can do way better, probably more in the first half in those starting of the game. But, again, I'm really proud. That's what I asked to the team in the halftime. I wanted to leave the stadium today proud of the second half that we had to do, and we did it. So, again, I want to say a huge thank you for the fans as well. They were here supporting us as always. They were showing their opinion right now, which I respected 100%. Hopefully they understood me as well and the team. And again, glad to hear everything that they had to share because we need them 100% next week, same as you guys need 100% us next week. So thank you so much.
I'm inclined to agree with Coke Vegas. I mean, you look at it from a stat perspective. You know, I said on the friggin' soccer show, I said that the Hearts of Pine dominated the game, and even the Hearts of Pine guys were like, "We didn't dominate the game. We just capitalized and finished probably better than Rhode Island FC wanted." Rhode Island very much should have walked away with a point or more in this match. It just did not come to any place that I think fans were expecting to see.
Yeah, like I'd mentioned when we talked about the stats here, if we look at some of this here, Rhode Island FC outshot Portland 18-5. With the second half only showing RFC kind of growing into the game, they outshot 12-2, 4 shots on target. With a combined, if we add the first half, that's 7 shots on target there. You know,
what is it then? Is it a finishing problem? I mean, I watched the shots on target back in the replay. Some of them, Hunter Morse was standing on his head. Others, they were kind of kicked directly at him. Is it like, do we need to go back to finishing school for this team if we're creating these levels of chances? Or is it that like you can just have a really hot keeper for a day and just be unlucky yourselves? Because I feel like this is a continuing narrative now. We are leading the league in shots and shots on target, but our conversion rate is getting towards the bottom and the numbers won't work in our favor. This is no longer a quantity. This feels like quality because the quantities are up there and it's taking us too long to find the net.
Yeah, this is maybe another one of those things where the team swings too much in the right pendulum. So right now we're taking lots of shots, but maybe we're taking shots when we shouldn't in terms of that, like you said, the quality, right? We maybe need to take that higher XG chance. It's that balance of like, don't just go up there, run and just take a shot. But also don't go up there and then just pass the ball around the top of the box like 36 times to increase your pass completion rate.
But
like,
they didn't. They didn't because 33 touches in the opposition box, 25-6 in crosses, 10-1 in corners. At this point, they do that sometimes, yes. But at some point, we also have to acknowledge that when you have 18 shots with only 1 goal and you had 7 on target, like Hearts of Pine have 5 shots and only one of them converted. The other one's obviously a penalty.
So out of those, 18 shots, maybe some of those we could have. Maybe that's when someone should have recycled the ball. Say, you know what? I'm not in a good angle here. Let me pass it out wide. Let's circle back and like it. You don't have to wait forever, but sometimes you don't need to force things. And I think this is what happens when we chase games. We make poor decisions, and like it's worked out for us a few times, but in this case. It's that balance that like this team is struggling to find, like, how do we attack but also defend? How do we take shots but also not just like boot them into the stands? Like it's
I don't know. I'm not a coach. I'm not a player, so I just don't know. I just know that something needs to be corrected in that space. But this brings up the question then, Prinx Cup. We're now at the bottom, Jason. I don't want to re-pull up those standings and remind you, we are at the bottom of Group 5. I know that you gave the silver lining that there are points to be had, but we are at the bottom. Are we out of this cup? Is it over?
I mean, I'm more of a Jägermeister fan myself. Prinx is not my tire of choice, so maybe RIFC is just not really into Prinx either. I don't think they probably don't taste very good. Hopefully we'll get a new sponsor next year and give it a better go. All right, but all joking aside, like we aren't mathematically eliminated, but it's going to be tough to get out. All right, so when we look at we have 2 points. Hearts of Pine and Hartford have 4. That's less than 1 win point spread. But we do not play either of those teams anymore, so we kind of lost control of our destiny. Looking at the remaining fixtures, Hearts play Brooklyn and Cosmos. Outside of RIFC, Cosmos are the only team that Hearts have beaten this year. So I don't want to say that's a guaranteed 3 points for them.
But my concern now is Hartford is only going through USL 1 competition for the remainder of this fixture. And we have to still go through Brooklyn.
Yeah. So Hartford plays Cosmos and Westchester.
Then I'll ask this question. Do you think getting the first 2 matches of this tournament as away matches did not do us any favors? Like, is there something to be looked at in the future of this competition that it should be 1 home, 1 away, if at possible?
Possibly. I think that it was like this last year, but do you think that maybe we had a quote unquote unfair run-in. If you look at the teams that we have to play, Hearts of Pine, who is the best of the USL 1 teams, Hartford, who won it last year, in Brooklyn, another championship team.
You mean Westchester?
We only get.
You mean last year? We didn't play Brooklyn.
No. This year's.
Oh, okay.
This year.
Okay.
Compared to I like last year's.
When it was Westchester, and it was 2 USL 1 teams and 2 championship sides.
Yeah, well, it's similar this year, but the strength of our opponents is different because it's not an even playing field, right? There's
the Pittsburgh Riverhounds would disagree with you since they were USL champions, and it's our only win against them in club history. But I do understand what you're saying. My concern is, and because the reason I say it is there's a question at the end in the mailbag about why do I go to these games? Because the next 2 are home games, but they are games that might not produce anything of meaning. So you are really just going for an entertainment product. But I don't want to bury that. We'll talk about that more. But do you think, just short and simple, do you think that we can still advance out of Group 5, or is it over for us?
We could, but it's not in our hands. We have to win the last 2 games and hope that other results go our way.
So then the Brooklyn game decides it before we ever play Westchester, though. We'll find out in the next. The next match has become a must-win.
Yeah, the next match is a must-win for us, but then also we'll know whether or not we can continue based upon how the other results go.
All right. Want to ask this one because the Kano out is 5 people asked about it, so we'll put that in the mailbag here in a second. But I do want to talk about an observation that we had, and it was a loud talking point on the bus ride home, and it's been a loud talking point across the Discord over the last 48 hours. Thoughts on the fact that the team did not come over and clap the fans after the result. Now, before you say anything, remember we were upset personally when we went all the way to Miami and there was maybe 20 to 30 of us. And again, it was only Koke. Now, Kano couldn't clap us because he was on a red card suspension up in that, high tower somewhere hiding away. But again, it was another game where the team did not even walk over and give us claps. And I would argue that was a significantly bigger financial investment for us and everyone else that traveled to Miami than it was to get on a bus
from Miami.
Neither have I, or to drive up to Portland. And I know they're 2 different things, but it's now seeming like when this team doesn't do good, or at least gets a point, they want to get off the pitch as quickly as possible. How do you feel about it versus what do you think is the appropriate thing to do here?
I'm in 2 minds. I think it is the right thing to do to go over and clap your away fans, even if it's just like a quick walk by, hey, thanks for coming by, and then just head to the locker room. They don't need to sit there and wait or anything or say sorry, right? And at least kind of acknowledge the fact that 160 or however many people drove or took a bus 3.5 hours into another state to come watch you. At the same time, we just got through a long CBA negotiation where some of these players don't make very much. It's, like yelling at a cashier for something going wrong. It's a bad analogy.
Wait, no, I'm going to stop. I disagree with you. I get where you're going, but I'm going to disagree with you because I agreed with you the first part that yes, they do. I think they do owe it to at least clap and recognize the same effort that was matched to them when they came out on the pitch, regardless of the result. And I think I knew where you were going, but I'm going to try to say it differently. What I don't think they deserve, and I don't know if there's a fear about this, is that I don't know if they think that if they go over there, there's a confrontation where they're going to get yelled at.
Yeah.
And so if that's on the club, that the fan group as Defiance or just Rhode Island fans in general have set some precedent where they think that's going to happen, then we all need to get together in a room and to understand who are we as a community, who are we as a group, because we shouldn't be yelling at them. That's not how that works in the moment. Even if we're upset, we should be, go get it next time, because that's not going to do anything for them. And in so much so, I talked with Koke as we walked back across the pitch as he went to the locker room after the interview. There's a lot of stuff that he said that was off the record that I can't share. But the thing that he said the most, and the thing that he wanted me to take away and make sure that everyone that listens, including the supporter group, knew, is that some of the reason he has to they leave is that if it goes south on them, it adds to a mental level of anguish that could potentially carry over into the next week practice, into the next performance. He told me the most important thing that this team needed right now is just to reset and be ready to go on Monday.
Yeah,
and so I think that there's a fear.
I was going more in a sense of these players aren't paid enough to be berated, right? They're not millionaires who are going to whatever, I'll just jump in my Aventador and just drive home.
So and he kept saying the team needs to be shown love. They need to show love to each other. They need to respect it. They need to reset and move on. So I think that if we want this to happen, I think that there needs to be a conversation with the front office. I think there needs to be a conversation with the supporter group leadership, and there needs to be a conversation with Kano.
I think also the fans need to show it with their actions.
Right. But I haven't seen it unless it was because the group started chanting Kano out. And so if you do that, it's going to be a problem. They're not going to come over if you're asking for their leader, who they're invested in, because according to Koke, that locker room is closer. They are stronger than ever. And there is nothing other than it was a bad result. They didn't like what happened and they just needed to reset. And so they walked off the pitch. Whether you agree with it or not, that's where it's at. So if that's the case, then Kano out's what got you to not see the players. Now, I don't, that's just an assumption. I'm putting two things together that maybe they don't combine, but that's where we're at. So,
yeah. No, I agree. I think that, they should at least acknowledge, but like if
we screw it up, then fine, right?
Yeah.
So I hope whoever listens to this understands that we are owed a clap. We are owed an acknowledgement when we spend money to go up and support this team. And I hope that if there's anything, let us disappoint you. Don't disappoint your fans. That's not the way to go. But we got to go to break, and we get back. We've got the mailbag here on the Raising Anchor Soccer Show.
Now, let's get back to the Raising Anchor Soccer Show on 990 WBOB with Matt Entricket and Jason Carey.
Mike M here saying, does this team have a motivation problem? Seems recently they've been very flat at the start of games. Also, do we see Leo get a chance at the lone striker at all? I talked about that earlier. Cup match would be a time to see how it works with him up top.
Well, I can answer the Leo one easily. The answer is no. He doesn't even play in your cup games, Mike. As for motivation, I don't know about motivation. I think they just are cold. I think they lose points to teams they're supposed to beat, and they get points against teams that we're unsure of.
I said last week that they wouldn't do this in cup competition. Maybe they absolutely did.
So I don't know if it's motivation, but there's something about the start of games that we need to start paying attention to. And then, Mike, we will be at your delicious all-you-can-eat steak tips tomorrow. So we will definitely start plugging your Portuguese Society Club and making sure that that's a thing. Taras asks, what was the point of squad rotation on a full week of rest? Did they play to win?
You have a deep squad. I think there is somewhat of an obligation to play some of the quote-unquote fringe/bench players, and against a lesser opportunity, that's the perfect time to see that rotation. Maybe more of it could have happened, but
Jacob Castro.
Yeah. But, it is very much a thing, and these players do need rest. They aren't machines. Not all, they can't play every single game of the year. So I think some of them deserve their weekend off. Nate here saying, given what was at stake, the cup standings, the league status of Portland's recent inability to win, and the presence of our traveling fans, is this arguably the worst loss in our albeit brief history?
Nate, you didn't mean to write that question in, because if you did, then you've somehow put in a mental block about the USL Cup final in 2024, because that is the worst loss in club history for all of the reasons that you just said, and the fact that we lost in the final. So
that game also never really felt like we were going to get back in it either. There was definitely a fight in this game where if it went our way, you could see okay, I see the team claw our way back.
Right. So I would say that now, if it was a regular match, I'd say even the Pittsburgh ECF last year, just losing to Pittsburgh in general, but it's obviously Colo Spig's USL Cup final. Robert D writes in, if more than 70% of penalty kicks in the USL are successful, why does Koke Vegas continue to guess and dive left or right before the shot is attempted? He looked pretty silly in the Portland game.
Penalties are luck, and there are very few keepers who are that good at saving them. So I am not going to be very critical of that at all. Kyle M here says, your second game in a row, we don't start Clay and Karifa. Second game in a row, we drop points. What is Kano thinking?
I don't know. I don't know what Kano's thinking. I agree with that statement, and maybe we should ask him on Media Day this week, because it is very uncharacteristic to. I mean, Clay and Karifa have the most played minutes outside of Koke, and I think they still eclipse him, because he catches up for duration of games, but it's rare to see Karifa go out unless he's on yellow card, or Clay even for that matter. So I don't know why this is happening.
A few injury stints, so
so they're still probably the players with the most mileage on their legs in the history of the club. I'm very curious why we're not seeing those two together. Joe D, this is a long one. This game was cut and dry. Hearts wanted this game more and capitalized on their chances early. We seem to dig a hole for ourselves early in games and then have to battle back. Sometimes the heart wins out over talent, and the Hearts of Pine showed it on the day. I thought their keeper Morse had the best game of the season and regained his form from year one. One bright note from our side is Dorsey's goal. Maybe this is the boost he needs to spark his confidence for the rest of the season. Was that a boost for Logan Dorsey? Should we expect to see brilliance out of him in the future?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm going to say brilliance, but I think he's going to see some more minutes, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him bag a few more goals for us. Eric N here says, our players look gassed and got ran off the field by Portland. We constantly getting beat to balls. Why do you think we're suddenly looking slow?
I don't know. Maybe the athleticism, the stamina, maybe this is the fatigue setting in. They're starting to get to the apex of they're supposed to be in the best form of their lives now at this point, match week 11, match week 12 going into the season. Players that are healthy should be hitting stride at this point. But maybe Kano's system is just too demanding on the body, or they're not waking up for the level of competition. It's something we have to continue to watch, but we can't keep having these slow starts. But I do agree with you. I think it was winning the second balls in the midfield. The Hearts of Pine would almost go into attack transition before they had the ball. They were already putting runners forward, hoping that they would get the interception, the recovery, or win the second ball outright. We saw it with the Hamidi Diop almost goal, where he stepped up for the intercept and for the tackle. He missed it, and then you already had runners going before the flow of the game brought Portland back into it. I think that's just what Bobby wanted to do on the night to upset Rhode Island, and it worked out for them. But hey, we got to talk about the big one. We got 5 email questions about it. So is it time for Kano out? It's the first time we've ever heard the chant. I heard it mostly from like groups of people that are known. I won't say names to like protect anonymity here, but like it wasn't the entire supporter group going in at it. But it was said, and now it's being reported that there's people asking for Kano to lose his job. What are your thoughts on it?
Absolutely not. I think we've seen this in the first 2 years that this team kind of goes slow, and we've seen that Kano likes to tinker. And in both seasons, we've made it to a final and an Eastern Conference final. So circle back in July, August, and if we are going around the drain, then maybe we can have a more serious conversation of like maybe he's worn out his time here. But at this point, I've seen enough in this team to believe that like they still have a good shot of at least getting to the playoffs and making it an absolute problem for other teams to play against us.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that he got the tactical decisions in the 18-man roster selection for the day wrong. I would not have done what he did defensively, but like you said, this was a USL 1 opponent, and if you're going to give other players playing time to see if they're ready to take the next step up,
there's also so many other variables. Like they were probably super hyped to play against us. It was like the first actual real nice day in New England. For anyone who's not familiar with the area, it's been raining every single Saturday. Yeah. And apparently it's going to rain on our next home games, of course.
It rains in Rhode Island. What can I say? But no, I agree with you. Listen, if he leaves this club, it's going to be only because he lost if he's going to leave before his contract is up. He's only going to have that happen if he's lost the locker room, or it's an unattainable position to get into a playoff battle. And we're not going to find that out towards the end of the season. And I don't think there's a coach on the staff as an interim that would do the job better. I don't think Spratty, I don't think McKay, I don't think Aguarte could do the job better than Kano. I just don't see a benefit in upsetting the players, upsetting the team, and asking for a head. Did anyone really care about Prinx Tires Cup? Yeah, okay, maybe. But like we didn't lose we didn't demand Kano out when we lost to Sacramento in the quarterfinals, when we didn't score a single goal in penalties. So I don't know. I'm of a different opinion, but we will continue to monitor it. And if the fan base continues to start request or to demand that there's a change at the head, then we'll have to keep monitoring and see what goes. But I don't see it yet. I think that was a little premature, but I understand the frustration on the day. People travel up, they spend their money, they want to see results. So Jason, it's been a fun show. We'll continue to have fun as we go into next week's preview of Brooklyn FC on the weekend. Let's get at it, everybody.
All right. Thanks for joining us. Anchors up. We'll catch you next time.
Anchors up.
You've been listening to the Raising Anchor Soccer Show. You can follow the show on Twitter, Threads, Blue Sky, and TikTok at RIFC Podcast and at Raising Anchor on Instagram. And be sure to check out and subscribe to Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, or wherever you listen by searching for Raising Anchor. Make sure to check out all of our coverage over at the Blazing Musket for all your New England soccer coverage, including RIFC news at theblazingmusket.com. Fans, we thank you for listening. We ask you to be kind and courteous to your neighbors as you leave the show. We thank you for joining us and look forward to seeing you again. Until then, I'm your main man, Juju, and on behalf of the Raising Anchor crew, goodbye for now. And as always, we are Rhode Island FC.